So, hello. We are going to start because today is quite a full event. I don't know if Kyar is on the link. Can you check? Pannika, our third speaker, is coming soon. There were some local elections. She's coming. As you may know, the People Party won for the first time a local election, so they are having some discussion, celebration, but she's on her way here. So we are going to start anyway with the event because we have quite a lot of things to discuss. Today we have the opening of the exhibition, and then we have the launch of 2 books, actually 3. And then we have also a panel discussion on the issue of displacement and forced movement out of Myanmar. So it's quite a compact, all this in 1.5 hours, and we also need to eat some Myanmar food at the end. So we will start. My name is Sciortino. I am the founder and director of SEAJunction, and SEAJunction is this place that you are quite familiar. Most of the faces, see, they are quite familiar with SEAJunction, but just in case, we focus on Southeast Asia, all the challenges as well as the beauty of this region. We try to reach the general public through arts as well as photography, discussion, movie screening, and other kind of activities. We are based within the Bangkok Arts and Culture Center, and this gives access to general public. Okay, this is very short about SEAJunction. I am going to introduce our first speaker, who doesn't need actually much introduction, Debbie. She has been an activist and director founder of ALTSEAN, an organization working on Southeast Asia and Myanmar since many decades. Right? Yeah, unfortunately, we are all in that age group when we can talk about decades, but we remain consistent. So please, she will give a kind of brief overview of the situation, particularly in terms of the impacts on displacement. And then we will go to the second speaker, very famous musician. Again, he doesn't need much introduction, and he will talk about his book, his 2 books in Burmese and English. I will introduce him more in detail later on. Okay, please, Debbie.
Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Thank you, Leah. Do you want me to continue sitting or do you want me to stand? What would work? Tech guy. Yeah, I'm good. Okay. Hi, everybody. Firstly, I'm not from Burma. I always have to say that because as a Malaysian engaged in the Burma movement since 1988, I now have more friends from Burma and I cook more Burmese dishes than I do Malaysian. And even Malaysians often compliment me on having such a good grasp of the Malay language for a Burmese person. So thanks to Leah and to SEAJunction for inviting me here. It's always a pleasure because it's our community. And SEAJunction has been one of the very special places in Thailand and in Burma, which has, in Thailand and in Bangkok, which has been a little reflection, a space for Burmese activists, for Burmese for discussions on Burma, for critical discussions on Burma, and also, just as importantly, artistic expression. So before I go any further, I wanted to congratulate Leah, Ko Pauk, and Ma Shui Woodmon for their amazing work that's being launched today. I don't know how you could, for Ko Pauk, I don't know how you could write a sentence, let alone an entire book, when you consider what he and millions of young people from Burma have been going through since February the 1st, 2021. I would say this, I never thought that it would be actually, I would ever come to this stage where I say, as an elder activist who has been in this movement for decades, but actually, I have never imagined that the military from Burma could be so cruel and could be so violent. In all the decades that I worked on Burma, we have not seen this level of cruelty and brutality. Even now, we have to understand that since the 1st of February 2021, there have been nearly 51,000 military attacks and clashes, attacks on civilians. And that has involved thousands of air and drone strikes, mainly targeting civilians, internally displaced persons camps, homes, places of worship. Why places of worship? Why mosques and surahs? Why churches? Why Buddhist monasteries? Because when people are driven out of their homes, that's where the first place they go for shelter. They've targeted schools even when they could see school children running for their lives. They targeted hospitals and clinics. So I think we need to understand the gravity and the seriousness. 51,000 attacks on civilians and armed clashes in the since February 1st, 2021 means an average of 1,000 attacks a month throughout the country. In October 2024, just last October alone, there were 294 air and drone strikes in the country. Burma, Myanmar is now the second most violent conflict-hit country after Palestine. And this is something that's important to understand, that our solidarity with Palestine is very important because civilians over there are also being subjected to airstrikes and attacks. So what we are seeing unfolding before us is something incredibly significant, and it's shocking to see that ASEAN governments have essentially either been sitting on their hands or even aiding this illegal military junta, who, by the way, are the losers in this picture. They have been cruel. They've killed people. They've maimed people. They've displaced, well, the UN says 3.25 million. I know personally many people who have been displaced several times. Young people, families, also families trying to carry their dogs with them. So, you know, it's all these human things that, you know, we don't imagine. Like, just imagine if you had to like try and leave. Who would you take with you? The cat, the dog, your favorite books, or, you know, all those kinds of things. People are making those decisions all the time. And despite this, more than 50% of the country is under control of the resistance. People have resisted with such amazing courage. We've actually seen in many places people setting up their local administrations, their own local government. For the first time in probably decades, they are having a local government run by local people and not run by the general administrative division of the military. They've tried to set up their own courts, their own law enforcement, even their own jails, because in this picture, jails are very important, and I'll tell you why. When you get someone who's committed a serious crime, if you don't have a jail, the choice that you have is to either kill them or let them be free. So this is why, I never thought jails were an important part of civilization and rule of law, but now I've learned the hard way from understanding what's going on the ground. And so what we have seen now is that in Karenni state, one of the most conflict-ridden states, in fact, in the first year of the coup, if you were a resident of Karenni or Kyar state, you were 32 times more at risk of military violence than if you were a resident of Arakan state in the first year of the coup. That was how badly they were. More than 2/3 of the population were displaced. But still, the Karenni State Consultative Council was formed by the citizens. And even more amazingly, they have set up an interim government. And this is fucking amazing for the feminists here. They actually were able to implement a 30% women quota in the judiciary, the legislative, and the executive within a year and a half. I was telling members of parliament from Malaysia last week, hey, this is what's happening in Karenni state. And a female member of parliament shook her head and said, we've been struggling so long in Malaysia, we are so developed, but we've only been able to get as far as 12% women in parliament. Yeah. So, I mean, we need to understand this is a serious situation, but we've also seen a real revolution happening where social minorities and people from religious and ethnic minorities have been acknowledged as important actors in the society, including the LGBTQIA community, including persons with disabilities and women and young people in a society that used to be very hierarchical socially. So we are seeing a revolution happening in front of our eyes, and all of us have a duty to support it. And we also have a duty to let our souls be enriched by going to see Shwe Mutmon's exhibition and getting that deep sense of what's going on by reading Pauk's diary. So thank you everybody for being here. Please support the books and please support the exhibition.
Okay, so we are going now to Pauk. Please, sorry for misspelling your name, but please tell us about your books and the Odyssey. So as you can see, the title of the exhibition is also about Odyssey, and we choose without knowing actually about, so it's a coincidence that we were thinking about the struggle of people in the journey of 4 years, but also literally in the fact that many of them had to leave the countries. So please, it's your turn.
Hello everyone. Thanks for the SEAJunction and everyone who's involved today. Can you hear me?
Yes, very loud. We are. It's very loud. We are trying to put you. We are trying to put you a little bit lower, but.
Yes. Is it now?
Okay, don't worry. It's just scream. Fine.
All right. So yeah, once again, thank you for this beautiful event. And coincidentally, the book that I republished in English and French yesterday is called The Odyssey, and I'm sure it's shown in there also. And first of all, thank you for MKF edition and NPA and my best friend Karim for making my dreams and making my words to get printed and published around the world. So yeah, a little bit about myself. I used to be, I still am, I'm an artist, and I was, due to my, because of my anti-military songs and actions and protests and everything, my citizenship, my Burmese citizenship was stripped away, revoked, and I became stateless, and so did my two kids, my two daughters. And in 2021, April and May, I had to leave my country because I was in a 505 warrant, and they arrest and kill and do whatever they want when you are in the warrant list or any kind of their list. So I had to leave my country with my two daughters, and I want to highlight a few experiences from this book, like just a little bit, because some of the stuffs are not relevant. Some of the stuff I want to highlight today is when you became a stateless person with two kids, two daughters, my choices are like the problem that I have personally. It's solely up to me because it's after all it was my choices. But my kids, they have to suffer the consequences, of my choices. So the most important thing, the biggest trouble that we had with my kids in Thailand while staying without any documents, the first thing is health. So when you have no documents whatsoever, you cannot go to any clinic or any hospital, or you don't get any kind of healthcare. So we stayed in Mesot for 6 to 8 months, I think. At that time, we have a healthcare system provided by the UNHCR and RSC and stuff. But there is no school for the kids. I'm not sure about now, but back then there's no education system for the refugee kids. So we moved from Mesot to Chiang Mai, and yeah, there the story starts. Because we don't have no any documents or passport, we cannot easily choose the place we live. We they have to be someone who help you to get the apartment or any a place to live in. The first house owner, the landlord lady, she had COVID. At the time, the COVID is at the peak level in Thailand, and still she decided to rent her house to us. So 2 days after we arrived Chiang Mai, my daughters have had COVID, and that was the time I thought I had a near-death experience because we cannot be quarantined because we don't have the document, and we can't go to any hospital or anything if something went wrong. So it was a little very small dark apartment. We cannot go out. I just sneaked into the 7-Eleven and bought all the medicines that I can get, and foods and vitamins and whatnot. So at the same time, I have to worry like when my kids is gonna like, something's go wrong and maybe they can die. And I can't do anything about it. And at the same time, when I have to like giving care to them, I also had COVID. And that was yeah, when I tell you about it now, I still feel the tingly things in my head. It is very scary. Yeah, and yeah, in general though, uh, when you have to worry about it every day, um, it wears you out. So, whenever my kid, my kids can go to the school in Chiang Mai, but still I have to pray every day, like none of my kids will break any bones or like get any sickness, like any time of the day. When the school called me in midday, just because they want to reschedule the time or something like that, I thought it would be an emergency, and it scared me. It scared the shit out of me. And another thing is schools, the education system. Uh, when you don't have any documents, you can only go to the starting level of education, and you can go beyond that. I remember one day that my elder daughter's school announced a Canadian scholarship. And my daughter's maths and English skills is the points are very high in school. So the teachers are telling her, suggesting her like to apply that, you know. But my daughter couldn't because she doesn't have any passport. And that broke her heart. And yes, I really wish Thai government will be a little bit more flexible. I know they have to go like hand in hand with Burmese military. I understand their political point of view, but at the same time, I really wish them to think based on the humanity of the little kids. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm like going off topic. Yeah, please. Hello. Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah, that's all I want to point out because I don't want to bore everyone, but I am open to any kind of questions if you have one. Because it's literally impossible for me to, you know, tell all the stuff from the book. But if there is anything or any questions you have, I am more than happy to answer.
I think these are the two books. This is the English version with kind of boring cover, and and the other one, much more interesting cover, is the Burmese edition, which is about him, I suppose. Or okay, so but of course the content is very interesting, apart the cover. Okay, so then we go to Thailand. And Kun Panipa was affiliated or is still affiliated with the so-called Move for World Party, but this day People Party, but she's not in a political function. Correct me if I am. You are a foundation? Yes. Okay. Not a parliamentary function, but with the foundation, I think of the. So please, thank you for accepting to come today. And we are interested to hear more about what Thailand could be doing and maybe it's not doing at the moment.
Thank you, and I'm very sorry I've been late. Sorry, but it's very hectic day for People's Party because we just had a local election yesterday, and a small victory for us, one province, but it's off topic. I'll introduce myself first. I am still in politics. I am still a politician, but I've been banned for life from running elections. So now I help campaigning, and I still have a small role in the committee, the Parliamentary Committee of Security, and on the Deep South Peace process. So since the first year I entered politics, I sat as a vice president of the Committee of Law and Rights, and we at that time focused on refugee and political prisoners in Thailand. And after 6-7 years, the situation is deteriorating. And this year, I think we are in the most challenging years for refugee, political prisoner, asylum seeker in Thailand. And taste? Yes. This is better? Okay. I think we face many challenges. First, I think you cover some of this already. We are under Trump administration, and he just signed on an executive order to cut down subsidy on human rights issue, and that has huge effect on refugee camps in Thailand. We here know that those camps live on subsidy from Western countries, and one of the main donors would be the United States, of course. So this year is going to be a very tough challenge for those who work for refugees there. Second, this is very unfortunate that last year Thailand was elected as one of the chair on UNHRC, United Nations Human Rights Commission, and yet we haven't seen any indicator to predict that the Thai government is prioritizing human rights issue. On the contrary, we are facing these challenges on transboundary crime, scammer, drugs, human trafficking issue, and the government still fail to respond to those challenges. And when it comes to refugees and political prisoners, it's even more, what can I say? It's an issue, a challenge that the government doesn't have any incentive to touch. It's even sensitive to touch because it's involved very much with the military. And this government, they are very sensitive with anything related to military issue. So, Trump effect and the sensitivity of this government, who is always reluctant to touch anything relating to the army, the military. And third, I think the challenge that we as a political party is facing more and more is, I think it's what happened a few years back in Europe, a sense, a nationalist sense in many people in Thailand. Since last year, we have been called Myanmar People's Party because some of our MPs, they push very hard on human rights issue, about refugees, about migrant workers, and many Thai people, they are not satisfied. And those classic phrases came on our face, that you should focus more on the benefits of the Thai people, not on Burmese people. And that's why they call us the Phac Prachachon Pama or Myanmar People's Party, not Thailand's People's Party, right? And I am afraid that this kind of negative sentiment is growing. It's growing in Thailand, and it might play a very critical role in the upcoming general elections, which is going to happen in 2 years' time. And this is a very tough challenge for us as a politician, because we have to explain to many people, when we go to the markets, people will come and ask why do you have to fight for those kind of issues that is not related to the Thai people at all? Why do you have to care for refugees? Why do you have to care for migrant workers? They're not even your voters. And that comes fake news that we are trying to amend the law to have those migrant workers have a right to vote, which is not true. It's fake news. But that's what we are facing every day. And even our supporters, they have questions that people are still very poor. We have many problems. We have PM 2.5 problems. We have economic problems. Why do you MPs, you are the biggest party in the Thai parliament, why do you care for those Burmese people? And we try to explain, and we will continue to explain. That will not stop us from carrying this human rights and rights issue as a whole, especially workers' rights, which is very universal and one of the core values for our party. But especially during election campaigns, I will have to be honest here that many of our candidates, many of our MPs, they are very tight and very reluctant to push more on this issue in the parliament because of this negative nationalist sentiment that is growing in the country. And the last issue, I think, I have been informed since a few years ago that the Thai government has been very clear on the policy to close down refugee camps along the border. And we, as a committee, always push to have more concrete plan on how will you integrate those refugees into the society? Yes, we can see a situation that you close down all refugee camps because they have been there for like many decades already. So maybe it's time we close down the refugee camps. But the big question would be how we integrate those 900,000 people in the camps into a Thai society, because you can never deport them back to Myanmar. That will mean death for them. So how will you integrate them to the Thai society? And I think the key issue would be maybe not identity card, but at the very least, they have to have some kind of authorized document to be legally in the society. And education, they have to have a kind of certificate that can have that they can find a good job and live on themselves. And we never get any concrete explanation from the Ministry of Interior on how will they integrate those people, those refugees in the camps to the society. And we are still pushing for answers. And as a committee, we are going to work very hard on this issue, because it is very obvious that they are going to really close down the camps within a few years. So especially education issue and identity card, authorized document issue, we have to get that answer from the Ministry of Interior. That's what I'm going to share as of now, and I'm ready to take questions afterwards.
Thank you. Before going to the question, maybe a brief comment, because we have just finished. I was one of the co-editor of the Thailand Migration Report for 2024. About half of the population in the camp is actually born in the camp. They are below 18 years of age. So the issue of integration is a bit ironic, because they are born in Thailand. They are not coming from another country. So I think it's important to really pay close attention to the situation. And now that the US government refused to give food for the camps, maybe it's the right time indeed to think about integrating, because so far food and other support was coming from abroad, not necessarily from the Thai government. This is just a comment, because just we have finished this report, so it's important to pay attention to the composition of the camp population. They're very different from the Myanmar people who have come to Thailand now recently because of the the 4 years of the coup. So before going again to the question and answer, I want to introduce the last book for today, which is Living the Coup. And this is actually our own product, in the sense we have done a call for people to write about their experience. Bom at the time was still here, and others. Lynn, where is Lynn? Lynn is there, so she worked with me at collecting the stories of people from within Myanmar, as well CDMer and other people in Thailand. And then we put it together with some of the photographic and art material of the exhibition. So this has become, I think, a quite powerful documentation of 3 years of the coup, because of course 1 year was the production. So you can look at this and also read it. I think will be very important, because it's really from the voices of people in Myanmar, and then the art and the photograph they have produced. And with this, I open the floor to anyone who wants, thank you, Pannika, anyone who wants to ask comments or reflect on this anniversary of 4-year anniversary, and on the issue of displacement. Anyone? Oh, yes, please.
I just want to make a comment about on the economics of the coup and how it impacts Thailand. Firstly, the price of rice in Burma has risen by 500% within 4 years. Things that we take for granted, like paracetamol, is actually quite difficult to get a hold of. So I think, electricity, internet access is still quite patchy. So sometimes I remember a friend of mine joined a an evening webinar, and I noticed her and I said, "Oh, you're still in Burma. It's amazing that you're here." And she turned on the Zoom camera, and she looked like a ghost because behind her was totally black and her face was lit up by her phone. And she said, "I've been charging my phone with the solar power all day so that I have enough battery to join this call." So, you know, that's the kind of, I have an alumni who every few months might send a message saying, "Can you please send some money?" Because she's actually working in the war zone to do psychosocial support for women who have been displaced and who face violence. But also every few weeks, if she's near the Thai border, she will climb up a tree and take a selfie and post it to Facebook, so we know she's alive, which means she'll probably ask us for more money. But, you know, these are the kind of resilience and survival tactics of people who's hanging on to their humanity even when this junta is being so inhuman. But I also want to say that as a result of the coup, Thailand's post-COVID recovery was actually much faster than other ASEAN countries. Economists noted, and this is also media noted, that the health and education sectors were actually growing during the pandemic partly because so many people who could afford it were coming to Thailand to seek education and health services from Burma. So this is something that we need to be aware of. During the pandemic, when Bangkok's condos were actually lowering their rent because everyone was out of town and they were desperate, they were offering like amazing 2-bedroom condo in Sukhumvit for like 20,000 baht a month, which is crazy. The price of real estate in Mae Sot and Chiang Mai and neighboring, even Sangkhlaburi, was going up. The hotels that were empty in Bangkok, the hotels in Mae Sot were full. So and if you actually look at the statistics, the population of Tak province, and you look at how many KFCs, how many Big C's, how many supermarkets are happening in Mae Sot, there's no way the population will be able to support that amount of commerce. It's actually the people from, not just the people from Burma, but also NGOs buying supplies to send into Burma. So, and we also need to understand that Thailand's construction, hospitality, and manufacturing industry could bounce back because of cheap Burmese labor. So, when the People's Party is advocating for protection and rights for displaced people from Burma, what they are also doing is ensuring that there is stability in the Thai economic system. So you're still People's Party of Thailand, I can assure you that. Now, even in Malaysia, I was at a human rights briefing by the Foreign Ministry of Malaysia about 3 weeks ago. And I was surprised. There were big corporations, large Malaysian corporations, coming to this human rights briefing. And I was saying like, what's going on here? Their agenda was to urge the Malaysian government to allow refugees the right to work in Malaysia because there was such a terrible shortage of workers. And they said the refugees are already here, they have skills, we want to employ them. Some businesses are employing them, but that means they're acting illegally by employing these refugees. So the reality is that when we look at people being displaced by conflict and think that they're going to be beggars in the streets and we have to give them all our charity, the reality is that they actually have been supporting the economy just by being here. And what we really need to do is to make sure that they can be here sustainably. Even in Malaysia, which is really crazy because they don't want to allow refugee children to go to school, we are having a declining birth rate. So many schools are facing a shortage of students. So what the hell? Why are you so illogical and racist to deny refugee children the right to schooling when that's actually going to be helping your education system? And whole of ASEAN are really into marketing education, which is making their education system more international. You already have a resource here that will help internationalize your education system. You just have to open the door. So I think we really need to understand there is a political economy to this coup, and many countries in the region are benefiting from the displacement, but at the same time, we are facing some pretty horrific stuff. The immigration detention center in Ranong has been a hub that allows the junta to go and handpick who in detention that they want for forced conscription. So in Malaysia, despite the foreign ministry's statements condemning the military junta, the Home Ministry, immigration, is deporting thousands of Burmese back to Burma. Some of them have already been forcibly recruited. So when they say, oh, we want it's very important, please stop fighting, then why are they supplying more recruits to the military by deporting people? So that's actually creating a problem for ourselves.
Okay, very important. Yes.
Give me 2 minutes to add more on academic issue. And thank you very much. That is the exact storyline, narrative that we try to explain to Thai voters, that to protect migrant workers' rights is to protect Thailand's economy and entrepreneurs. And two things we are trying to do more on this issue, and to expand the definition of workers' right to include migrant workers' right too. First, we try to amend the law to allow migrant workers to form a union, and this is to comply to the ILO convention, right? And the second issue is going to be very, I can say, a taboo, and people don't like, Thai people don't like this, but we try to propose a law that will allow migrant workers to have the right to vote for Social Security Board. Last year, it was the first time in Thailand's history that working people had the right to vote for Social Security Board. And this year, at the end of this year, December, it's going to be the second time. I'm sure we cannot do it on time, but in 3 years from now, we can try to propose this law to allow migrant workers to have the right to vote for Social Security Board, to make sure that they participate democratically in this system, because they pay, right? They have Social Security number and they pay, so they have to have the right to vote. And we are going to do more on this, because the Thai people, the Thai workers, they don't really like this idea, but we believe that it's the right thing to do, and to make sure that we can include them, migrant workers, into our society, and it's going to be beneficial to all.
This is maybe the most challenging issue for the entire world, as we are seeing these days in the United States and Europe and many other places. But introduce yourself. And
this one isn't perfect. Oh, it is. Sorry. Thanks. There we go. Is it working now? Yes. I'm David Feingold. Some of you know me. I was in charge of all HIV and human trafficking programs for the region for UNESCO for a long time, and I worked on the issue of citizenship about 30 years, and I first walked into Burma with the Shan Army before many of you were born. And I think it's, first of all, both these presentations bring together really important issues. On a personal level, I am so sympathetic because we spent a year and a half to get a Burmese professor and her family who had been accepted by Harvard out of this country. And the Thai government, all they had to do was get to the airport. And it took us a year and a half, and we got them to Canada. So everyone was willing to help. IOM was willing to help. There were people in the Thai parliament willing to help. And this was the easiest case. All she and her family had to do was get a ride to the airport. Question that, if I can ask you, is before I came back to Thailand in October, there was in the Bangkok Post and in the Thai newspapers discussion about giving citizenship to 483,000 people. Now, I lived for many years with Akha people, and there were people in my village whose families were here far longer than the family of the Prime Minister. Now, the question is this actually going to happen, or is it like the 10 other times where this was promised and nothing ever came of it? So I'd really be interested in your response.
Citizenship. Because we have many MPs in Chiang Rai and Pauk and Chiang Mai provinces, all these provinces, citizenship, especially in rural areas, in hill tribes area, are a very big issue. And I'll have to guarantee to you that our Citizenship Act actually is a very progressive law. The law itself is very good. The problem is that the process for you to apply for citizenship, especially for those of you who live for 4 or 5 generations in Thailand already, the process, I think many civil society organizations had helping hands on this issue to help the people prepare for documents. And then they will have to file those documents to the Thai authorities. And that's when the problem happens. 90% of what I've heard, they took bribes. You have to pay them so that they can follow through and send the documents to the ministry, and then you get citizenship. What we are doing right now, we have been doing for 5 years already. Our MPs and the team in our party will contact to the chief of Ampere, Nampur. They just need some MPs, some important people from Bangkok to go to talk with Nampur that these documents are ready. You just need to send them to the ministry and get citizenships to those people, and that's it. It's very crazy. It's very unsystematic, and I know it's not a good way to solve the problem at all, but this is what we are really doing. You need some MPs to go to talk with those local authorities to force them not to take bribe and to send all the documents to the ministry to get citizenships to the people. And for the latest policy that the government issued a few months ago, I have to confess I'm not following on the local level what's going on for the application of this policy, but I will follow, maybe especially in Pauk and Chiang Rai, right, to see what's happening after a few months of the government issuing this policy. But for the Citizenship Act, that's what we are doing, just that. We don't know how to cope with officers taking bribes. We just need some good MPs to go there and to get them do what they are supposed to do, like 2 years ago. That's it.
Okay, I am going to open again, this time for 3 questions. So, okay, 1, 2. Is anyone also? No, so let's go first with...
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Kun Pannika. Can you hear me now? Okay. And Kun Debbie. Sorry I missed you earlier. I'll catch it on the tape. This one's working, yes. I wanted to ask Kun Pannika, in terms of policy bent of Thailand towards the status of the refugees in Pauk and so on. I understand from the Kizima reporter, I asked him once in one of your Myanmar sessions, what did he think of Kun Pan Pri, who was minister for about a year under the Setha, right, administration. He said that Kun Pan Pri was the only Thai foreign minister he had ever seen who actually came to Tak and crossed the bridge to the Myanmar side. And he felt this was a person who's willing to deal with issues of refugees. And I wonder if but he was I'm sure was told to leave because he was too liberal or something like that. But you would know the story much better than I would. I just read newspapers. But did you detect in him a glimmer of right thinking in the Buddhist sense about refugee issues?
One moment. We take the other question.
Hello, I'm Arti Kapoor. I am the director of a human rights agency. And one of the key things that I do is advise multinational corporations on business and human rights issues. And one of the things that I wanted to ask your opinion about is whether it was right that corporations pulled out of Myanmar. One of the speakers, you said that people cannot even get paracetamol. And so even basic amenities are not being supplied to people in Myanmar. Is it right that some of the largest corporations in the world should leave Myanmar? I would like your nuanced opinions on that. And secondly, what about supply chains? So a lot of businesses have pulled out their supply chain, garment factories and things like that out of Myanmar. And those garment factories have moved to countries like Cambodia and Bangladesh. Some businesses have even tried to take the workers, but that didn't work. So what are your opinions about businesses pulling out of Myanmar, aside from the security issues, but taking business out, important products that people need, and jobs?
Okay, I suppose this is for Debbie, this question. Is any other question? I give no, so you? Okay, there, please.
Thank you. Just a quick request of the panelists, if I may, to give us a sense of their crystal ball gazing forecast for 2025. Threatened election in Myanmar, escalation of conflict. What do the panelists think 2025 looks like? It's an easy question.
Okay, one more, and then I will give the floor.
Hello. Maybe my question to Kujabao. I hope you can hear me. For Kujabao, you know, many people are really focusing on refugee and also people who are suffering, but I see a lot of people who are not really counted. For example, even though like a middle class people, they have money to move in, and but also there's a lot of people, right? For example, you mentioned about education of the kids, and I have 2 or 3 friends. Previously, they dream of like a maybe better life, and after that, they could not even afford, right? So many story, but at the same time, there's many children who are, you know, I don't know how to say, but under this background, you know, right? I want to ask you a question about like, do you have, you know, any others? I mean, no. How? What make you think of this sharing of this kind of story? And do you also have any like untold story, like some of your friends want you to tell on behalf of them? So my question, a little bit personal level, I want to understand about like your motivation behind sharing this story, and also who want you to read this book? For example, from Thailand. For example, do you think that Thailand people who are making policy will read your book, and who want from the people? Who want you to read people from the Thailand, particularly from Thailand society? Sorry, my question a little blur, but I want to see your motivation and who want you to read in the Thailand, because your book is only English in Myanmar, right? So, yeah, sorry, that's the question. A little confusing.
I'm sorry, what was your question again? The first one is like my motivation. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear much.
Yes, your motivation to write this book, and particularly what's your aspiration for people in Thailand if they read. Yeah.
So my main reason, my main motivation to write this book is just to be one voice out of a million voices that lost their life and who has no voice to make. So I want, like, to hear. I want the whole world, to hear the true story of the true people, and that I am representing. So another reason is when the coup is happening, right after 2021 February, when I was in hiding, I was doing a lot of interviews with international podcasts and media, and all of them, they told me that nobody here aware of in their part of the country, they are not aware of the situation at all. So that hit me, because we thought it is happening in a global scale. You know, everyone might know what's happening in my country, but actually nobody did. So that was my stance. So I'm gonna, you know, like, my voice could be small and it might not be efficient in the first place, but one can always try. And I am yelling. It's like my books and my writings are like me, top of the lungs. Like, I'm yelling to the wall that this is happening in my country. That is my motivation, sort of, if you mean that way.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before we move to the other two, is any plan to translate into Thai so that Thai politician and Thai public can read directly into Thai? Is any plan there? Karin, I think concern you too. Is any plan not only English in Myanmar but also Thai?
I'm so sorry. What was that?
Is any plan to translate into Thai language?
Yes, I really would love to, because you know, even though Thai intelligence give me some sort of hard time. I really love the Thai people, and I really love the people from, especially from Chiang Mai. And yes, I made a lot of Thai artist friends and normal people, a lot of a lot of friends, and I want them to read it in their language also. And yes, if there will be someone who's interested to collaborate with the project, I am open to that idea. Yes, I would love to do that.
We move now to Kun Pannika first, and then for the critical question about corporation to Debbie.
About Kun Panpri, let me tell you my personal experience, which is not very personal. Last year, we were successful in organizing with SEAJunction an exhibition plus talk at the Thai Parliament, and we invited Kun Panpri to give an opening speech as a foreign minister. And we also invited many stakeholders, including the army. Even the army sent their representatives, but not a single representative from the Thai MFA came to our event at the parliament, which is hosted by the Parliamentary Commission of Security and Border Issue. So Kun Panpri seemed to be very active in Myanmar issue, but my personal opinion, I suspected his intention maybe it's a PR stunt.
All right. I remember being in the middle of various discussions, including those that featured the UN Special Rapporteur on Human Rights in Myanmar and members of the UN Working Group on Business and Human Rights in 2021. Now, I think what we need to understand is that for many of the corporations, especially in manufacturing in Myanmar, they were not making things for people to use in Myanmar. They were actually making things to be exported. So that's one thing. The other thing too is that in the formal economy, in the official economy, where most of the transnational corporations are operating, they have to pay taxes, and all of their royalties are paid to various state agencies which were already under the control of the military. Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprise, for example, when we looked at Total and Chevron in the early days of the coup, the amount of money that they were paying to Myanmar Oil and Gas Enterprise in the first year of the coup was the equivalent of 115 bullets for every man, woman, and child in Burma. So the salaries that some of the workers would get was very small compared to the money that the junta was able to grab to buy more weapons. And in some cases, there was a very real issue that the equipment and the assets of these corporations would be used to kill people. One very clear case in 2017 was how Telenor's telecom towers were in Rakhine State were used as sniper posts by the military to shoot unarmed Rohingya civilians. So the reality of the situation was that the businesses that stayed were businesses that had their assets protected by landmines, or in one case, when the workers came from the general strike, which legally they had the right to strike, when they got their salaries in one of the shoe factories in Langtaya, they realized that their salaries had been deducted for the time that they went on strike. When they made a noise and they protested in the factory, the manager called the police, and the police shot the woman who was leading the protesters. In fact, I think about 5 workers were killed and several others beaten up and thrown into jail. So we could already see that there was a huge problem in how businesses behaved. And when the case of Telenor, when they decided to, it's a Norwegian telecoms company, when they decided to pull out, they happily sold their property to a crony company that was close to the military. And there was actually attempts in Norway to have a court injunction on Telenor not to share information about the Myanmar staff who had been joining the protests, because all the personal data, they wanted to protect the personal data of the Myanmar staff, and that was not the case. And we also had in the garment industry, some workers were missing, some workers were dead, some workers were in jail, and there was no guarantee from many employers that they will hold the salaries in trust for those workers if they came back, or if their families could give evidence that they had died and they could get the money for their families. So these are some of the things that we need to understand, that in many cases, the money that the corporations would be paying to the junta was much more than the benefit that people had. What was different during 2011 to 2021 from before the transition was that there were many small and medium enterprises, and they were operating. They were not the big corporations, and they're the ones who were able to help more people, actually. And also the smugglers were helping a lot of people bringing stuff into the country. So I think we saw that the supply routes to affected communities was more done more by cross-border community-based organizations and community-based traders than the big corporations. So we have to have a little bit of understanding of the political economy. But you know something, I have to say, a lot of the companies said, "Oh, my heart bleeds for Burma. I stayed there. It's a wonderful place. People are wonderful. This doesn't need to happen." But when we said, "Okay, so will you support human rights organizations, or will you support Karen Peace Support Network, or some of the women-led organizations who are providing aid into the country?" Nah. So I have to be quite concerned. Okay, crystal ball. More violence. Unfortunately, 2025 is going to be more violent. And why? Because of the junta's sham elections. Of the 50-odd parties that have been allowed to register by the junta for the elections, only between those 50-odd parties, they won 2.7% of the parliamentary seats in the 2020 election. 2.7%, not even 27. Among the parties that are allowed to run, the parties that actually ran in 2020, they won only 2.7% of the parliamentary seats in 2020. All the parties that won, the ethnic, the NLD, all those parties that won seats in state and national houses, they've been banned. So the idea, the propaganda that the junta is saying that don't do anything, wait until the election, everything will be better after the election, is quite bullshit, because the expectation that the elections might provide a political solution and reduce conflict is a nonsense, because what they're doing now, if you look at the heat map of airstrikes in Myanmar, all the places which have not been allowed to register for the elections are being subjected to airstrikes even as we speak. I mean, one of my students posted on Facebook on New Year's Day, was it? She said, we had in the middle of celebrating New Year Eve, we had an airstrike on our village, but at least I didn't forget to carry my drink into the shelter. So, like every time we see these things, and we feel so upset and so scared for our friends, and then they're still able to have their sense of humor. They have their resilience. So I think what we need to understand is we're going to see a lot more violence, and first thing we need to do is we need to stop the flow of conscripts to the military. That means we should not be allowing anyone from Burma aged 18 to 35, men or women, because now they're recruiting women, they're forcing women to the army. If they are in our territory, we need to extend our responsibility to protect to these people within our jurisdiction, because if we send them back, we are actually fueling the violence. If we allow aviation fuel into Burma, we are fueling the violence. If we allow weapons and any equipment that can be used for violence into Burma, we are fueling the violence. We already know. So 2025 is going to be the year that we need to cut that from the military before this situation gets out of control.
Okay, Kun Pannika, and then
So
our speaker
I have
also.
some more information to add on your point on how to cut down financial support on the weapon and the war, ongoing war in Myanmar. We work closely with Tom Andrews from the UN representative on Myanmar, and he provided a very resourceful report last year, right? And we follow up with those information with the Bank of Thailand and the Association of Commercial Banks in Thailand. And just at the end of last year, the Bank of Thailand issued a press release, a statement indicating that they are constructing a new system to scrutinize the financial transaction of the companies listed in Tom Andrews' report. Unfortunately, and Tom wasn't happy at all with the result. They said they scrutinized with the Thai banks all the companies listed in the report of Tom Andrews of the UN, and haven't found any relation about weaponry subsidiary to the military, to the junta. But they are constructing a system to scrutinize all financial transactions in high-risk companies. So we are following up on in 2025 how do we do. And we are going to continue to work very closely with some pressure with the Bank of Thailand and Association of the Commercial Bank of Thailand on this issue. Still not satisfying with the result, but at the very least, we have some progress because we let them know that we are scrutinizing them so that they will have to scrutinize those companies on the list.
Thank you very much. Any vision of the future for Burma in 2025, and then Pauk also give an occasion.
2025, in my opinion, a mixture of hope and fear. We know that Kun Thaksin, in his own capacity, not about Pheu Thai or the government, is very keen on having a peace talk happening in Myanmar. I don't foresee any progress on this, but I see the intention from Kun Thaksin's side because we learned that he met with the leader of the ethnic groups last year already, and there might be some a second meeting with those leaders of the ethnic groups. So Kun Thaksin has been trying to form a kind of peace talk, maybe informally first, but we don't know to what extent the government, with the Thai government and also the junta, the Myanmar junta, will respond to this attempt on the peace talk. But we will still have to have high hope on this. And if Kun Thaksin is successful on this case, I will be the first one to will give him big hands. We hope he will be successful. A mixture of fear. We see many deportations last year, and not on western border, but also on eastern border, especially Cambodia. To be very honest, event is about Myanmar, but I'm more concerned on the eastern border. The situation with the Cambodian government and those prisoners of conscience from Cambodia is in a very critical condition. And we see a negative cooperation between this government and Hun Manet's government, and it might result in more deportation this year. So, a mixture of hope and fear. Hope on the western side, fear on the eastern side.
Not very optimistic. Okay, Chapak, maybe you want to add your vision for 2025 on the situation of Myanmar?
I am not a politician, so I personally cannot predict what's going to happen, but I'm sure there are a lot of internal things that we need to fix first. And I can only hope and wish for the best for my people and for the surrounding country to change accordingly to help the actual well-being of my country. And that is my stance. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello? Hello? Is it on? Okay, thank you so much. My question is informed by my experience on Palestine refugees in the Middle East, actually. Two quick questions. One is on the level of comfort by Myanmar populations outside of Myanmar in the political representation process that is taking place, the government in exile, the parliament in exile. I'm just wondering, how do Myanmar populations feel about these are they democratic? Are they inclusive? Are there mechanisms for Myanmar populations to express like critique or input or content? And related maybe to that is the issue of, I mean, you spoke about pessimism in regards to the future. And I just wonder if there's a sense that this is going to be an issue that's going to last for a long time. It's going to be maybe protracted in nature for a long time. And does that make the advocacy and the mobilization different in a way? Thank you so much.
Okay, last question.
Thank you. Hello? 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 No, it's on. I'm from Mekong Migration Network, and we work on the migrant workers' rights issues. I have a question for Thailand because I think it's been quite clear that the, migrant from Myanmar contribute, is good for economy and society, and Thai government is trying to include them in planning to allow them to form trade union and all that. So all about integration, but maybe more in the first simple step for them to be able to stay documented. Does the Thai government have a clear plan to not continue this requirement for migrants to get the certificate of identity and continue to go to the consulate to renew their documents? Because many migrants who are currently documented have been showing their concern because of the forced taxation and also political issues. Thank you.
Okay. Last, Kim.
Hello, Kim.
Real last.
Yeah, Kim Atkinson, I retired UN editor, not in any political capacities. I wanted to ask, in terms of the forecast for 2025, what will the relationship of China be with the junta? Will they continue to be a major resource for sustainability of the junta, or with the, I don't know, whatever other aspects you'd like to elucidate about the Chinese relationship with the junta?
Okay, it's me who's going to answer China question. Thailand.
China, Thailand.
Okay, China, Thailand. Thailand.
Migration issues.
Your question. That's one of the issue that we press on the Ministry of Interior since last year, right? About the conscription issue. So many people plead, and they don't have any documents at all. It's actually similar to Rohingya issue. Rohingya people, they don't have any legal documentations, right? So they cannot be a legal person anywhere in the world. And everyone in this room know already that Thailand doesn't have the word refugee in our legal system. And that's very problematic. And the Ministry of Interior is not going to do anything with that. The Ministry of Labor, who is responsible for registration of migrant workers, they try to compromise, but still there is no concrete policy from the government, because maybe my personal opinion, maybe they know it's very sensitive issue. After Pauk Prachachon Pama issue, Myanmar People's Party issue, I think the government doesn't dare to have a very concrete, clear policy about this. But on a practical level, I think the ministry, they are quite compromising with this. And yes, of course, they need some kind of documentation from Myanmar to register these migrant workers. But actually, in the past, we legalize migrant workers by just taking them into the system and register to our system, and that's it. And that doesn't require actually any legal documentation from Myanmar side. I think in the long run, it's going to be back to the same issue, the same system. But we'll see what the government is going to do with this issue. But I guarantee to you, I think the government will not have any clear position on this point, because it's a politically sensitive issue. So they will make it in a gray area like this, and we have to work around it. That's it.
Okay, Debbie, you want to answer about the representation?
And Palestine. Karen people have, the Karen struggle has been going on for nearly 70 years, probably as long as, almost the same time as the Palestinian struggle since the Nakba. So I think for many people, they see the long view. My concern is that we have a lot of young people who have died or been permanently disabled by violence, and a number of them, the ones who started non-violent action, protests, were being shot at the streets without any protection. So many of them felt they had no choice but to join the armed struggle. Now, this is 4 years of fighting. At some point, there's going to be a big issue, which is at which point, is it in the 5th year or the 6th year or the 7th year, that a young person, a young activist, becomes a seasoned fighter, and then where political solution no longer become part of their vocabulary. So this is the thing that that has troubled me and worried me since the coup started. I remember in 2013 giving a human rights workshop to Syrians from Arhasake province down at Chanli Urfa on the Turkish border. And when I told them about how long the Burma struggle had been, the Karen people had been struggling, they were very depressed because they said, oh no, we don't want to be fighting for 50 years. And I told them, don't worry, you won't be fighting 50 years. Because at that time, so many Syrians were being killed. I thought by the end, if this fight keeps up for more than 20 years, there won't be any Syrians left. So it's quite special to me that there's been a shift in Syria in the past few months. So I think we have to understand that there is a view. And for some people, they see it as long-term. For young people, they want to go back to university. That's it. And I think we all have a moral duty to make sure this conflict ends quickly, where there is no chance of another coup happening. Having said that, the National Unity Government, the acting president is actually still in Burma, and many of the cabinet are in resistance control territory. So some of the cabinet are in exile. But there's been a lot of engagement, and there's been a lot of probably more access by diaspora and people in the country through Facebook and social media to many, and even in-person meetings with the NUG than even the NLD government in the past. So I want to say China, basically, Xi Jinping gave Min Aung Hlaing the last chance. His last chance is to have this election and legitimize himself. But he's not doing a very good job of it. It has not been the kind of election that Beijing would prefer to have, to see. So that's something that at some stage Beijing is going to have to weigh up its options, mainly also because that Min Aung Hlaing loves Russia more than China. In fact, from the beginning, I always said that Russia was the phantom menace in this picture. But, you know, even Western corporations have some culpability. For example, Airbus is a partner of AVIC, the aviation company of China. And they say they cooperate with AVIC to do commercial aircraft and commercial non-violent things. But AVIC is also making fighter jets, which Burma is using. And most recently, Min Aung Hlaing went to China. His visit to China was to inspect drones. They're going to buy more drones from China. So at some stage, China will have to do a cost-benefit analysis of who have they been siding and what's the damage on them. And I think political damage as well as economic damage and security damage is something that we need to be very clear about, because China likes to think it has a lot of soft power, probably not as much as South Korea, but we should actually be pushing back and saying to China, what about Burma? Why are you supporting Min Aung Hlaing? I think this is something that and I want to say that it sounds pessimistic when I say there's going to be more violence. The thing is that the violence is initiated by the junta, and all of us can see it coming. It's already started. It's getting worse. More people were killed in 2024 than in 2021, 2022, and 2023 combined. So we from airstrikes alone. Between October 2023 to September 2024, we were shocked to see there was actually a spike in people dying as a result of sexual violence. So, you know, yes. So this is some of the ACLED. We get our data from ACLED, and we are getting quite concerned at how the different patterns of fatalities are taking place. And it's telling us this is going to get worse. So scientific data is there. Whether our governments are going to be logical about this is the question. We're not asking people to say, oh, feel sorry for Burma, all those poor people. No, look at it from pure logic, and it will tell you what to do. You cannot allow this conflict to continue, and you cannot trust the junta to be the one that ends the conflict. They will give in if they, for example, Min Aung Hlaing keels over probably through an act of God. This is the time. The 2025 is going to be the year where we're going to know whether we believe in God or not. But there has to be a break in the junta for something to shift. But our question is, at the end of this revolution, are we going to support the people of Burma to make sure that this doesn't happen again? So none of this bloody power sharing, blah, blah, which is why this coup happened in the first place.
Okay, there is a lot to reflect
Anyone
This
from
is the
Thailand?
problem with
This is
Debbie.
for Chapao, for Ko Chapaok's book. I think it's really important that his book is translated into Thai and serialized. So not the whole book, but every chapter is put online week by week, so people have time to read in Thai and digest. Or even better, we got a lot of creative people here. So graphic novel, please, in Thai.
Okay. This is the.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the idea. I work on it.
Thank you so much for giving time for my country for today. Really, I felt it from here.
But we will send you also some copy of the book from the exhibition and the book of SEAJunction. I am going to give, or actually someone is going, please. Yes, please, you can give to the two speakers so that.
Hello, my name is Thea Ottman. I'm from the Embassy of Norway here in Bangkok, and we're very pleased to support this project through the NPA, Norwegian People's Aid. And very nice to see so many people showing up on a Sunday evening, and I know also it's a very busy weekend for those engaged in politics in Thailand. So thank you so much. It's really interesting to hear the stories. I look forward to read it. And so please, Pannika, thank you so much. Even though you've been really busy this weekend, so Kyar, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been so good to hear what you've been telling, and yeah, thank you so much. And thanks to People's Aid and the SEAJunction. Thank you. This is all very spontaneous, so thank you very much. I look forward to read, and I also have to thank for sharing these very strong stories. Thank you.
I confess I didn't know that. I was, but anyway, it worked out fine. We are very thankful for the support of the Norway People Aid. Indeed, they are a great donor because they don't ask us to do what they want, but they allow us to do a number of exhibitions, and then we can propose ideas that we think are important. And this exhibition, I think it shows. It's an artist from Chiang Mai. I should say now it's 3 series. 2 series are more about the Spring Revolution, the change from peaceful to armed struggle of young people, the young people that Debbie has been talking about. The second series is about gender, actually, and the presence, the strong presence of women on the far front of the Spring Revolution as photographer, and the fact that they are not recognized as such. So the series is portrait of the anonymous. There are so many women photographers, but then when we think about, then we think always about male photographer, and you can see the impressive photographer, really they were on the front line. And the third series is more about now, is permit to stay. And it shows how many people from Myanmar have to go out to Singapore, come back again to Thailand, go up to somewhere else, come back to Thailand, study Thai boxing, come back to Thailand, study Thai language to be able to stay in Thailand. So but of course it's done in an artistic way, not in the way I am saying. So please do a tour of the exhibition before enjoying the Myanmar food. I want to say the next exhibition is going to be with New Burma or Myanmar on the 3rd of March. It's about education in Karenni state. The bombing as well as the courageous initiative that are being taken. But on Tuesday, we actually have a beautiful exhibition from a famous Indonesian artist from Indonesia. So we also show the beauty of the region. It's not only depressing. There are really very courageous artists, and that is particularly interesting because it's used his name to create all kind of figures. So if you want a more relaxing and pleasant experience, come on also on Tuesday, and you will enjoy Indonesian food. We thank you, our partner, Mizima and Irawadi, which are cross-posting, so it's being broadcast not only on our Facebook, but also, and they have a much larger outreach than we have. Our outreach is still modest, but Mizima and Irawadi, they are very, a lot of people watch it. So hopefully a lot of people will be thinking about this issue, and we will continue to keep Myanmar on our priority, because it's not only important for Myanmar, but it's important for the entire region as the world becomes, unfortunately, more authoritarian. But we still continue to resist. Thank you to everyone, and enjoy the food. And of course, buy books and give a donation on your way out. Even if we have generous donors, it's never enough. Thank you. Thank you very much for being on Zoom, and hope to see you in person very soon.
Hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.